I think I took really good ones, actually, but I'm worried.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sure we're fine.
And we're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Trash Pandas. We are going to be covering Murder Among the Mormons.
Among the Mormons.
Which is a new Netflix.
Which, first off, who knew?
Oh,
yeah, I actually did not know
I
this.
had no idea this shit
Like,
went
I was
down.
alive when this happened.
Yeah.
And I have no
wasn't,
recollection of these events, Your Honor.
Your Honor. I know, and you would think this would be like huge ass news. Because this is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about this documentary. I'm Lindsay, one of your hosts, and I am joined here by my wonderful, beautiful, amazing cousin, Lauren,
Yes.
and my wonderful, beautiful, amazing co-host, Dave.
Dave's just happy to be here with two hot blondes. That's Dave's good. That's
what I like to hear.
Dave's
It's like the best compliment.
Dave's in his happy place.
Yay. Yay, Dave. Good for you, Dave.
And not just because I'm behind a microphone.
Right.
So, but again, disclaimer, for the love of God, go watch the South Park All About Mormons episode. Because I feel like that truly sets the tone for how insane Mormons are.
Is that the Trapped in the Closet episode?
No,
too?
so that was
that's
Scientology.
Scientology.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
No, so the Mormons.
That's the dum dum
Yes, okay, all right. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. Like, so, like, and like, so that episode is what teaches you. Like, so you know the phrase, "Oh my God, you're talking out of your hat." I mean, most people say talking out of your ass, but the original phrase is talking out of your hat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That comes from Joseph Smith. Because his whole shtick was, I've got these special magical plates and these seer stones, but I have to put them in this giant hat, and then I look in the hat, and then I read the translation to somebody. And so he was bullshitting the entire. So it's talking out of your hat. That's where that phrase comes from. And see, welcome to Education with Dave.
We have you, Dave.
And so, that episode is amazing. And like, so I've always been like, dude, Mormons are effing weird, but like, this was. Whoa.
But back to the South Park guys, they did the whole Book of Mormon on
Broadway.
Yes,
so that Broadway play
was
was an offshoot
because
that episode was so successful and so popular.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do a Scientology one too, because that one was really good.
I mean, the Mormonism faith is wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. I mean, there's a lot of culty characteristics.
And the hate mail comes rolling in.
I know. It's like, I get freedom of religion and I'm totally cool with it, but when you start exploiting people in that way.
Well, so honestly, that was the best. The very end of the South Park episode is when I think it's Kyle is telling off the Mormon kid, because the whole thing is like a Mormon family moves to town, and he's like telling off the Mormon kid about like, dude, your religion's a joke and it's based on bullshit. And the kid's like, dude, like, here's the deal, like. I get, you're absolutely right. Like, it's total crap. But you know what? At the end of the day, my family's happy and we get along together, and that's all that really matters. And you're more concerned about like judging me because of what book I listen to. Like, dude, you got a lot. What was it? You got a lot of growing up to do, buddy.
Yeah.
Screw you.
I'm reading Trevor Noah, Born a Crime, and it's so funny because he talks a lot about like the colonialism that came into like South Africa at the time, and he was like, they were all about shutting down like these African tribes and like the religions they were practicing. And he was like, but when it came to Jesus, a guy turning wine or water into wine, obviously that's real.
Yeah,
like,
that's a real
so
thing.
it's like
it's not just a magician,
right? It's like what are
my
you
imaginary friend in the sky is better than your imaginary friend in the sky.
Yeah. Oh God, here comes this is
the
where
real
comes the
way
hate mail.
Right, yeah. No, so like for those who don't know, so Mormon, so the whole Mormon church is based on there was a guy named Joseph Smith, who, according to the stories, went out into the woods, and this is the story as he tells it. He was visited by an angel, the angel Moroni or Moroni. And told him to go out in the woods and find these golden plates, which because the Bible is wrong. And didn't tell the story right. And so the Book of Mormon is supposed to be the third and only accurate book of the Bible, where Jesus is Caucasian. and was born in America.
Of course. Because why wouldn't you be? Salt Lake City.
Yep.
Right.
And all
SLC punks.
Yeah.
That's Jesus.
And all Native Americans used to be white,
right?
Until one tribe turned against Jesus and he made them red.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh, see, that's
oh my
yeah.
God!
Our people.
It's not just a cult. The Mormons are just as racist as the rest of us.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, clearly there's like hardly any diversity within the Mormon Church.
That's
but
true.
Oh, they're all white. They're all blonde. They're all they're very Third Reichish.
Very Aryan.
I'm not they're very
they're very Aryan. Yeah. So good. So great that you brought this up. So this story actually takes place in Salt Lake City in the 1980s, and it begins with this brief overview of Mormonism, and we find out there's like within Mormonism there's like this divine mandate to preserve history. And so Mormons are really, really enthusiastic about finding these rare documents.
And I feel like every religion has this.
Well,
like the Vatican archives are ridiculous and all that kind of stuff. But like this,
but this is newer for us too,
right?
Like where it's like
because newsflash, this is like the 1800s.
Right.
That's
right.
like Mormonism just came about relatively recently in history.
Yes, absolutely. So there's like within Salt Lake City, there's all of these like book dealers and these rare document finders. And you can actually end up making like a lot of money trying to find these rare documents and what have you, and that's kind of like where our story begins. So as Dave mentioned, like early Mormonism is filled with like these treasure tales and Mormon artifacts, and Mormons everywhere are trying to seek them out, and so this leads us to one of like our major things is our main guy, Mark Hoffman, trying to find these rare documents, and of course doesn't set anyone off that he finds them all.
Right.
You know,
okay,
like,
but here's the thing. Like, okay, so like the way, and I give again, this documentary could have probably been an episode or two shorter. I'm going to get that out of the way. But they do a really good job because by the time episode 4 hits, I'm like, I take it back. Like halfway through episode 3, I'm like, are they going to tell me that this one? Like that. This is where this is going. Because here's the thing. Like so, we get there's some like news clips and that kind of stuff in the beginning about these bombs that have gone off in Salt Lake City, and people die, and it's like, and again, which is why I'm like, God, why do I not remember?
Right.
But again, this is before. This is before the 24/7 news cycle.
Right. Well, you're right.
Because that's one of the things they talk about is the trial is like the first thing that's actually broadcast on CNN. So yeah, it was just fascinating.
Yeah. So we're introduced to Shannon Flynn, who's a rare document dealer, and I put AKA.
Who's a dude?
I put AKA Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh
because of Lauren.
So like we see other clips of him like when he's younger and he has like a normal voice, but he has like that kind of like I hate to say this because I know that I'm probably gonna get a whole bunch of backlash for it, but he kind of has like that like sultry like I'm definitely a rapist like kind of voice to him. But then when you see him as like an older man, he talks like Winnie the Pooh. Like it's very breathy, like whisper.
It's very like that. Mark Hoffman was my best friend,
and he's very emotional.
He's a COVID spreader.
Yeah, right.
He's very talks like this all the time.
Very breathy.
And I don't want to make him a hero.
Yeah, right. Yeah, don't make me answer that question.
Yeah.
So, and then we hear about Mark Hoffman, who, from Shannon Flynn, says he's basically a rock star in the document finding world, and we come to find out why eventually.
And compares him to Indiana Jones, which, like, I'm like,
Like, can
Okay.
we not talk
Right.
this guy up? Like, he's not a good guy. He's,
Well, but we don't know that now. We don't know.
Right,
Like, yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Like,
I mean, but I'm already putting 2 and 2 together.
Oh yeah. Oh, me, like I walk, and I should
could
by
you
now.
not?
Like I should know by now that
Yeah.
whoever is being held up on a pedestal in episode 1
right.
is going to be the
is
giant
the
bag of
murderer.
douche
Yeah,
in
yeah.
episode 4.
Right, is the downfall. Right. So then we see Dory Hoffman, who is Mark's wife, and they're together, and they're going through when Mark finds his first rare document. And he's a student when he finds his first rare document
Over in England.
written by Joseph Smith himself, called the Anthem Transcript.
Yep.
And basically, his wife sits down with this book that Mark found, and she's like flipping through it at their kitchen table.
It's a Bible.
Yeah, it's a Bible.
And it opens up, and she finds this rare document like put inside of it.
Well, yeah. So she's flipping pages, and she's like, "Hey, I
There's
think
a piece of paper
there's
in here.
something stuck between in the binding, and so he was like, oh, all right, and then they cut it, and they find this Anthem
Transcript, and basically it lights his fire to find more after this. He finds all of this crap, and
It basically validates the Book of Mormon is really what like it comes down to, is that's like validating some of the stuff that the Mormon Church is trying to like.
Well, and we'll get more into that because
I don't want to
that's
get
super interesting because he is actually an atheist.
Mormon, exactly.
So that's really interesting. But
I feel like he kind of had to like build the trust though there to be
Yeah,
like, oh,
no,
I have
he
these
did.
you know
He
what I
did.
mean?
So
he had
he's
to do something that
building-
was like
so-
pro-Mormon.
right. So we talk about like with like in my students, we talk about like ethos, pathos, and logos. And when you're building your ethos, you're building your credibility. And that's exactly what he's doing right now. Is he's building his credibility with this first document, which we don't know at this point in the documentary that this is a fake. We'll find out later more. But the story. So apparently. He was a bit of a genius, his friends say, with his ability to like recall and remember like minute details about things.
I felt a little attacked. I was like, I could be that guy.
Yeah, Dave, you could be. Not gonna lie, you definitely could be. But that doesn't mean that you're a Mark Hoffman.
The other thing too is that the Bible that he finds this stuff inside of is said to be Joseph Smith's sister's granddaughter's Bible.
Yeah,
Yes.
like how did you get your hands on this?
Right.
dude?
Well, no. So no, the provenance of the Bible is actually legit. Like, so I mean, and that's the thing. So like, and that's
The
so,
Bible is real. That's why it makes the document feel
so
more real.
and that's the dude. Like anybody, like every liar knows that the best way to get a lie across is to shroud it in truth.
Sure.
You know, if you the whole 2 truths and a lie thing. Like, you know, if you have a big enough lie but you have enough truth around it to make it seem plausible,
Right.
it's gonna pass the sniff test.
Right.
And so that's the thing. So I mean, and that's the thing. He did do a great job with going to these old bookstores and finding all of like these legit, you know, what could have been period documents and period, you know, Bibles and that kind of stuff, and finding these books. He could have had a great career just being legit.
He wouldn't have made.
But again, we'll cover that later.
Right, exactly. So I wrote a note, story of the document finder who found the church fired because of what he found. Do you have anything more about that?
The next thing that I have is basically that Brent Metcalf asked to do a genealogical research on the document.
Okay.
And then it was like 137 years old, and they found more and more stuff like that he was like finding, and that he was tracking like old letters down and like with like postage seals, and that's like how he.
So
was,
and
like,
that was the
finding
thing.
them.
Like, so he did, like, dude. Like he knew his shit. Like, so he knew, like, so that, and so like he knew.
He always has the inside trade going,
right, and so that's
know?
the thing. Like, and like, because that's the thing. Like, you start meeting these other guys, who like apparently there's like a whole little
There's a world
club
in Mormonism about
that's dedicated to the documents and the history and all that kind of stuff. And so they were like, God, this guy knew what seal meant that was likely legit.
Right, exactly.
What binding meant this, and they talked about that. Like he would walk into a bookstore.
And he knew where the Mormon books were.
Well, and just kind of walk around because he knew what
exactly what he was looking
what color
for.
of the book he was looking for, what size of because it's like they
the
printed
bindings.
They printed things in different sizes with
Yeah.
specific bindings and that kind of stuff. So
so he became a genius at this. So the next thing I have is December 27th, 1983. This is the Salamander letter. So it was in a box where the gold plates were, and Mark Hoffman, of course, found it. And this is a huge ass deal because it basically completely questions the Mormon creation story.
So that's the whole point is so it's this letter basically says no,
this isn't how
it's
it happened.
not the angel Moroni
Right.
that he met, that Joseph Smith met. It's this white salamander that he met in the forest who told him this story.
What kind of drugs were you on? No.
I mean, if you're going to believe a guy's
forgers documenting forgers.
I mean, if you're going to believe that a guy disappears with 12 friends for 3 days and comes back and the wife has no questions.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
So when I was trying to think about like an analogy of like how huge this was, immediately is like the Christian creation story. Like imagine some document being founded and all of a sudden
the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Apocrypha,
the whole entire creation story is just completely uprooted. And so of course like the Mormon church like doesn't want this because they're like, an angel sounds way more legit than a fucking salamander.
Our entire
are you
religion's
kidding
based
me?
on a lizard.
Right. Yeah. Like, are you
like
kidding
Scientology.
me?
Right.
We're saying we're like lizard people now.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
Oh my God! Now it's gonna be on Fox News.
Right. Yeah. Like Jesus Christ, the PR shit.
Their eyelids blink this
God
way.
damn it.
The PR. This is going to be a PR nightmare.
This is going to be a fucking PR nightmare. 2020 can kiss my ass. God damn it, lizards. So, Ron Decker singing. And I said, LOL, he was a news anchor. So there's this news anchor at the time named Ron Decker, and they like show video of him like singing like these Mormon songs, and he is talking about Mark Hoffman and just like how huge this discovery was. I mean, it really rocked the Mormon world. Like, and that's the thing, like us not being Mormons, we don't understand, but like at the time it was like, holy shit, like our whole foundation of this religion is completely rocked.
Well, and of course, and so, and here's the important part of this is so the church buys the salamander letter.
Right.
And
they
locks
keep
it away
under wraps, right?
And they don't allow anybody to look at it. They don't allow anybody to study it. They don't. It's nope. Thanks. That's going in the vault.
So apparently, this letter was from a guy named Martin Harris, and the letter said Joseph Smith was led to the gold plates by a white salamander, and this contradicted the church's belief.
So who was his? I believe
scribe?
His scribe.
Yeah, his scribe.
So here's again, which the South Park episode does a great. It lays this out really well. So the way this happens is so Joseph Smith comes back into town and goes to this guy Martin Harris. Martin Harris is a very wealthy dude.
Yeah.
And so Joseph Smith goes to him and says, "Hey, I found these golden plates that I'm going to put into this hat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to look into the hat." And I want you to be my scribe and be my translator, so that you write this down, and so that's that story.
Right.
And so that's that. So here's the fun part of the story: is at one point in time, Martin is married.
Yeah.
And Martin's wife Lucy. So
we hear about her later too.
And so Martin, Lucy is like, why are you encouraging this asshat? Like there's no way in hell this is real. And he's like, no, but like, why would he lie? It's the angel and God and yada, yada. And so Lucy Harris says, okay, give me those 3 pages that you just transcribed for him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put them up here. And you tell him that they've been lost. And then let him translate it again. Because if he's reading from the tablets, it should be identical, right?
Yeah.
And so Martin Harris goes back to him, but he's like, Joe, I'm sorry. Like
I'm sorry.
I lost.
Can I call you Joe?
I lost the papers. Yeah. And Joseph Smith makes up this. He's like, oh, I got to go pray on this. And so and he comes back the next day and he's like, dude, God is really angry. That you lost those pages. In fact, he's so mad.
Damn it.
He's so mad that now I can't translate them this way anymore. Now I have to translate them this way.
It's like Abraham seeing the burning bush.
Oh, totally.
I'm the only one seeing it.
So,
God's talking to me
yeah.
through a fucking burning bush.
And so,
what kind of drugs are you on?
Oh yeah, and of course Martin's like, oh my God, God's angry. Of course this has to be on. Dude, I wish there was I would love a periodic painting of the eye roll that Lucy Harris gave.
The hard eye.
Right, when Martin explains the story. But so that's who Martin Harris is in this story.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So then we're introduced to Steve Christensen, and he talks about how he loves the church, but he feels the need for intellectual transparency when it comes to the history. So Steve Christensen is one of these rare document collectors, and so he loves the church. He obviously wants to keep with the church's ideals, but he agrees that there needs to be some transparency in it. So Steve authenticates the letter and he buys it for $40,000.
$40,000 in 85.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's a good chunk of change.
I mean, even now that's a lot of money.
Right.
But
But in 85, that's a lot of Back to the Future tickets.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. It's a lot of DeLoreans.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Back to the Future
I don't know.
tickets.
So the salamander letter creates a lot of problems for the church. And the president of the church, Hinckley, I forget his first name, but he released...
Well, I'm not going to lie, kind of looks a little bit like the guy from Poltergeist 2.
I love Poltergeist
Like the
so
old,
much. That is one of my...
Caroline.
Caroline.
No,
Come
but 2, like the creepy guy that shows us.
Oh, with the hat.
Oh yeah,
and
with that,
he shows up on the porch.
Keeps showing up outside. That guy, kind of reminds me of that guy.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Holy shit!
That's all I could think of the entire time. Yeah.
Love that.
So Hinckley releases the letter, and everyone loses it because it challenges the Mormon history and the origin story and the entire faith. Steve Christensen ends up donating the letter to the church. So now they have total control over this letter. So then the next thing that I have, and I don't know, Lo, you can correct me if I'm skipping ahead too far, but the next thing I have is Alvin Rust, who he's a coin collector. And Mark Hoffman would come into his store with stuff for him. And he said it was almost like he would ask Alvin Ross basically what are you looking for? And then whatever he was looking for,
Suddenly he found
right,
it.
exactly. Suddenly Mark Hoffman finds it. So he tells Alvin that he found this rare collection in New York City, but he needs help financing to buy it. And he needs $180,000 to buy this collection. And this is called the Mcclellan Collection. And the letter in there was from Joseph Smith's wife, and that details it was actually Joseph Smith's brother who first found the gold plate.
Oh, I'm glad you have that.
And this would be devastating to the church because you have to remember
Dude,
that
there's statues to Joseph Smith.
Right, exactly.
All over Salt Lake
Not
City.
only that, yes, that, but also the Mormons are so huge into genealogy. This would totally throw off who would be in charge of the church or who would have power, who would not have power.
Right.
I mean, this would question all of that. So the church outbids Mark Hoffman for these quote unquote McClellan letters.
Well, I
For
don't.
300,000.
Yeah, they didn't outbid.
180.
So here's
he was asking for 180,000 to finance to buy the letters from Elvin Russ. He was asking Elvin Russ for this money.
Yeah.
For these letters.
So and so Elvin's a guy who owns a
the coin collector.
He's got like a coin
like
shop
an
in town sort of thing.
or whatever.
And he was like, dude, and he's like, and he always finds like the old Mormon script.
Yeah.
Current like the old currency that they use and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. He's like, oh yeah, so we've got this whole great relationship going. And he comes to him and he says, hey, you know what? I found this thing, the Mcclellan Collection. It's going to cost $180,000 to buy, but I've already got the Mormon Church on the hook to pay $300,000.
Right, exactly.
So can you front me this money so that I can go buy this and then we'll split it? Yeah.
Right. And he was really generous with how he was going to split money with these people.
50% with people. That's
yeah,
crazy.
no, I know.
Oh,
I'm not.
he's such a generous
I'm
individual.
not saying that, but I'm saying red flag.
Oh yeah.
Like,
because when we get to that, what is it? The Freeman Oath.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Like that's
Yes. Okay. So then we go to October 15th, 1985. So this is when the bombing happens at the Judge Building, and one man is killed. So there was a bomb in a box. It was addressed to the victim, and it was Steve Christensen. And Steve Christensen was killed by this bomb. 9:15 that same morning, another bomb. This one killed Gary Sheets' wife, Kathy. Gary was Steve's business partner.
Yep.
So there's already a connection there. So Steve Christensen is killed, and then the wife of one of his business partners
at his house.
is killed at their house.
And they said that it was equal in power to 2 sticks of dynamite, which is like pretty intense.
Well, and then when we find out later too is like there was nails in the bomb.
I think that was only in the first one though. Was it in both?
I don't know. But
it was just the first one.
I thought it was just the
first
one.
First one?
Because
Okay.
the second one, we'll get more into this, but the second one was supposed to be like a dummy, and it was like a 50-50 chance if it would go off.
Well,
So-
depending on who you listen to. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's allegedly.
exactly.
Allegedly, that's what was happening.
So then we're into episode 2 already. So
Boom.
This picks up showing the bomb that hurt Mark Hoffman. So
now we're at bomb number 3.
This is bomb number 3, and this Mark Hoffman was hurt by this bomb.
Well, so
Pretty
and
bad.
it goes off in his car.
Mm-hmm.
Which they thought that it was in the hood of his car, but I think it was just like in the car.
Well, so the way the way they make it sound, they don't really know.
Right.
But
initially they thought it was in the hood of the car.
So bomb goes off in car. Hoffman, boom. And has severe injuries.
Yeah.
And this is where kind of the creepiness of Mormonism comes in, is because then you get that side guy who's like,
sprinkling holy water on him.
I had a bottle of oils in my pocket.
I saw he was wearing
he was wearing
the
the
proper garments, undergarments.
the magical underwear.
Dude, and he was like, and so I put the oils upon him, and I commanded him to live.
Yeah.
He saved his life single-handedly by sprinkling him with oil and commanding him to live, and he did.
He saved his life single-handedly.
We don't need hospitals or doctors or anything.
We just need
Mormons
oil. With
we just need
water.
We need oil or water.
You
and
know,
somebody to
I was
command
like,
you
do you
to
just
live.
carry like a salad
So
kit with
you know
you?
what's
Like
right.
you've got vinegar and oil?
Yeah,
and like,
it's just olive
did
oil.
you have some salt and
It's
pepper?
blessed olive
Like
oil.
what's in this kit?
I went to the Vatican when I was in Rome, and
Yeah, been there.
there's like a bunch of like shops right outside the Vatican that are just like touristy shops.
Of course
And
there is.
you can just buy like little samples of holy water
Oh,
with like
perfect.
the Pope's
Because I totally
with
know
like
that it's
the
been
Pope's
blessed by the Pope.
picture on it, and you're like, oh, holy water. Like,
Okay.
I just sprinkle it and start burning.
I'm
Like,
gonna see this right now.
bubbling. Yeah.
I did see a sprinkler that I wanted really badly, and it was of the Pope, and his hands went like this, and it sprayed the water from his
Papa
fingertips,
Francisco.
and I wanted it so
Oh
bad.
my God, that's amazing.
I went back and then I like talked to the person. I was like, "Where'd you get that from?" And she was like, "Yeah, it was stolen the next day." So like
God
literally,
damn it.
she had it for one day. I was like, "That's what's gonna happen to me too." So no.
Okay, so after the Mark Hoffman bomb goes off and he's incapacitated. He's not dead. He's alive. Media is picking up about the letters that he had on hand because obviously the police discover it.
He's got the Mcclellan Collection in his trunk.
Right. So they start looking at Gordon Hinckley because he was buying the letters. Investigators believe the church is hindering. Oh, sorry, that's the next sentence. But anyways, so Gordon Hinckley was going to be buying these letters. So they start like putting together like, okay, there's this group of guys, right? And they're all involved in this trade of documents. And there are some people that obviously have more interest in it than other ones.
Sure.
And, but investigators start to believe when they start looking into who is doing the bombings that the church is hindering the investigation because they don't want these letters out.
Right.
They don't want any questions about what they're preaching.
Well, imagine, like you said earlier, like imagine if like your faith is now all of a sudden like completely
shaken.
Yeah.
Right.
And like some people might be like, oh, that's crazy. But other people might be like, my entire life was devoted to this idea.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Like QAnon.
So then
Weird.
we find out a little bit about Mark. So William and Lucille are his parents, William and Lucille Hoffman. And
very devout.
They are.
Dad seems like a pretty uptight dude.
Extremely devout. So they were upset about the fact that Mark like had books on dinosaurs that he was showing his kids because
it promotes evolution.
It promotes evolution, and it like directly contradicts the word of Mormonism. Like so, they are very, very.
Oh yeah, because they're all about like the world is only 6,000 years old.
Right. So Mark advocated for the church on a mission to England in 1974. And this is where he started picking up rare Mormon books and reading anti-Mormon publications.
Because that's part of the Mormon faith, is that you're supposed to go
and do a mission.
Yeah.
So he basically at this time starts questioning his faith and the Mormon narrative because he starts reading some of these like anti-Mormon publications when he's out on this mission. And what's really interesting and something that I didn't know about Mormonism was that in England, apparently they have a lot of Mormon documentation and a lot of Mormon literature. So it wasn't rare or it wasn't a weird thing to go into a bookstore in London and find like some Mormon artifact at that time.
No, not at all. Because you have to remember, like, from
1800s,
from a historical perspective,
Yeah.
you've still got, even though like we've just fought the Revolutionary War and we're like there's still a heavy British influence here in the country, and so you still have a lot of old money in this country, and so to them, being able to bring those, like, I'm not going to lie, like, part of me believes that some of it is bringing back, look at these silly Americans.
Oh, my God. See, that is my thing. That is exactly what I was thinking.
Let me tell you what they're believing today.
Yeah. What are you, Irish?
I don't know. I was trying to go Paul. I was trying to go Paul McCartney. Because Paul McCartney has that ring ding ding a ding a do. He's got that.
Oh my God.
He's got that southern. He's got that southern London thing, and then because you don't want to go Cockney, because Cockney is just irritating as fuck.
Yeah, that's very like English. I love Cockney too.
I love all.
I love
I know.
I love
that
the Cockney.
You're both all about the Cockney. We get it.
I love large Cockney.
Any kind of Cockney. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is where he basically starts. Well, but we learn, even though, like, he went on this mission, he was questioning the Mormon religion way before.
Yeah, they said,
mission.
like, he had his little, by, like, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
He had his little box.
Yeah, his little crazy box, which we'll find out more about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So October 19th, 1985, we are introduced to Jerry De Ella, the homicide investigator. And I love this
Dude,
guy.
I love that guy.
I know. He is so, like, he's just so homicide.
Like honestly, that's
like,
what I wait
homicide.
for.
No, but you know what I mean?
No, I
like,
do, but I'm like, oh my God.
So, like, he's so, like,
he's very street and he's very real. And you can just tell he gives no fucks.
Right. He's
just like,
I don't give a fuck if the Mormon church cares about this or doesn't care about it. Like, I just want to figure out who killed these people.
Right.
Like, that's
Right.
all.
Like, can I just do my job?
Do my job.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like, that's who this guy is. And I love that. So they set up, I love this, they set up the war room. And they're looking at different theories of how this happens. So in their war room, you know, it's just like that. Like, it reminds me of, you've all seen the meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. With like all the red string and how it all ties in.
It's all the pictures on the wall.
Smoking.
Oh, and that's the best part.
Picturing, like.
By the way, can we I'm almost annoyed at this point that like Netflix has their at the start of it, they're like violence and smoking.
Oh my god.
Like we have to warn people that they're smoking.
It's the 70s. And the 80s.
Yeah, it's everybody
they still
smokes.
think this is birth control or whatever.
Right.
You know?
Give me a cheeseburger. You want cigarettes on that?
Yeah.
Of course I want cigarettes on that. I'm a man. Give me cigarettes. What do I
eat
my cheeseburger.
Cigarette sandwiches every day. Exactly.
No, I don't want filters.
Fry me up a fillet of cigarettes.
They all of a sudden become like 1920s. Like,
nah, see? Got a remote, see? Yeah.
They're just mobsters now.
Yeah.
But no, that was honestly like so. Yeah, he is a like he's one of the few people that I've seen in the course of all these documentaries that we've watched. I would love to sit down and have drinks with that guy.
Sure.
Like just like dude, like here's a bottle of scotch.
Tell me all
Tell
about
me stories.
it.
Except for here's the thing: is like, okay, this has to be probably the most interesting case he has ever worked. Like, if I'm gonna sit down with some homicide investigators, give me Ramirez, give me Hillside Strangler, give me the fucking LA dudes who dealt with like sociopath. And I'm not saying Mark Hoffman ain't, but I'm just saying like this was probably their only one and done. Like, I mean, what is Salt Lake City
they say all the
known
time
for?
that there's.
I mean,
so
actually,
rare, even for like people in those like
actually,
areas.
hold on.
Wait, Lindsay's about to mansplain.
Hold on.
Well, actually,
We'll mansplain.
Ted Bundy spent a lot of time in SLC
That
is
because his girlfriend
true.
was Mormon.
Mm-hmm.
That is
and he
100%
went
true.
to the Mormon church. So I just wonder, like, did they have any influence? They had to have.
See, now I have to go. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch that
Yeah,
shit
we
again.
have
I
to
know,
watch
right?
that shit. God damn it. Sorry.
Constantly.
All right. So they, in their war room, they're investigating everyone. They're investigating Al Russ. They're investigating Brent Metcalf.
They're investigating the guys that got blown up by the bombs.
Everyone. So everyone is investigated. So Shannon Flynn.
Well, because they get a call.
Sorry.
There's a call that comes in that says there are more bombs.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not done yet.
Yes.
And here's the weird thing. Like that kind of was a throwaway thing because we get told
they just
that,
randomly mention
and
that.
then we never hear
Exactly, because I don't even have that written down, but I do recall that.
It's
so
a
I'm like,
red herring.
Well, but like so did nobody follow up on that?
Sorry, I'm an English teacher. It's what I would like to call a red herring.
It's a dangling participle.
dun.
A dangling participle.
You got some danglers. All right. We got some danglers left.
So now we have Cockney and dangling
danglers.
participles,
Yeah. So Shannon Flynn, Winnie the Pooh, was not removed from this list. He had intimate knowledge of the business dealings, and he was a close friend of Mark.
And this is where we start learning about how close these guys are.
This is one of my favorite parts of the documentary is we have these flashbacks to like the early 1980s when he's in his Toyota and they crash and they have like Uzis on them. And
that's the funny thing. Like
they're
like people that weren't alive back then
right.
don't understand how cool
because I was
the
like,
Toyota MR2 was.
Wait, because I was
like they don't.
But I get it because I was like, okay, I get it. Like this was supposed to be a big thing at the time, but it was just like so funny
because I want you to like look
they
at
get out and they have Uzis
they're
and they're
like, hold on, let me get out with my giant
shooting like machine guns.
They're wearing
in the middle of the
pinstripe suits.
desert.
They have
like,
fedoras on, giant.
we're Mormons, see, man.
Yeah, I'm like,
they have a cigar sticking out of them.
I'm like, how does this go along with the Mormon?
Because keep in mind, we're still like a couple of years before Miami Vice. So like the Ferrari hasn't become a thing yet.
Right.
But no, so and that's we do like and like he was like, oh yeah, he's like, so I had these hookups, and like Mark was like, I want you to, like, I'm trying to get my hand, because Mark's making ridiculous money off these documents that he's finding.
Right.
And he was like, he's like, I'd love to get my hands on an Uzi. He's like, and so this guy's like, well, I happen to know where we can get an Uzi. I can use my connections.
So sultry.
And I feel like I'm not doing, like, I feel like I'm overselling it because he's much more high pitched.
No,
like,
he's much more.
Right.
He is high, but it's like he's talking
like I'm Barry Whiting him, and
I can't believe
he talks like this.
Mark.
He's like your asthmatic great aunt Ray.
No,
right.
He definitely has like an esophagus issue.
Yeah.
Like something's happening.
There's something happening.
But
there.
so like they're buying these automatic weapons. They're riding
these
around
cool
in his blue Toyota MR2
with their member only jackets.
with the members only jackets, which I totally had. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, you know what? I'd wear one if I had one today. But
Same.
so Shannon ends up being arrested for an illegal firearm.
Well, so as they're going through all this, they're like,
yeah.
okay, he's a person of interest, and they go to his house with a search warrant, which is when they find the Uzi.
Yeah.
And so now, like, that's a federal issue.
The other thing too is like when they're interviewing with this part, they straight up ask him like, are you involved? Blah blah blah, and he's just like, no, I'm not. And he starts like twitching, and
so when that was I'm like,
and I was like, did they like edit that? Like he always does that. Like he has like a
because he starts like his eye twitches, and he's doing,
and then he starts talking about it.
Has some tics,
but they were literally like.
But you
getting around
but you don't see them until this point.
And then this part, he starts doing it, and I was like, man, it just looks, but it doesn't make him look more innocent, And it sucks because in reality, like, somebody having tics or anything like that does not, that we know that he's innocent,
right?
But when you're being interviewed, if he was doing that when he was being interviewed, the stress,
it's gonna make you look guilty.
Exactly, or like when you're overthinking about trying not to look guilty, then it might trigger that. You know what I mean? Like you feel
absolutely, it's a stress-related environment. Like I'm being asked about if I murdered people, if I made bombs. Of course, I'm gonna
exactly. And that's the thing is like I've also like I went on and like looked at different things that were talking about it and everything, and all these people are like, well, he starts like twitching then, and I'm like, okay, but the magic of editing is that you can make it so that way somebody looks like they're not doing that, and then suddenly input that when the time matters.
Absolutely.
When you're looking for that dun dun dun.
The dun dun dun.
Moment,
Right. Yeah. When you're looking for the dun dun dun, you put that in.
Right. So not only was he arrested for the illegal firearm, but he also had like an anarchist cookbook.
Yes.
About making bombs.
Okay.
And that they basically didn't find enough evidence there to press more charges.
Because there were no bomb making materials.
Because there were no
nothing.
materials. Like he just had the book.
But here's the deal. In 1985.
Yeah.
Who didn't have the anarchist cookbook?
Everyone had a copy of that.
No, they didn't.
Literally.
Are you serious?
Every guy.
Are you fucking serious?
Every guy who ever wanted to try to get laid had a copy of the anarchist cookbook.
Are you kidding me?
Girl, look how dangerous I am.
Look at how dangerous I am.
I know how to make a bomb if I wanted to.
I can blow shit up.
Oh
I'm an anarchist.
God.
Do you not?
I'm gonna blow up this building. I'm gonna blow up that pussy.
I've been wearing long black. I'm gonna blow that back out. I've been wearing long black trench coats since high school.
Oh my God. So to me, this was just like your guilty Google search.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
nowadays.
Like
literally.
Like
I feel like,
Google search.
exactly. But
like basically
also,
you owning a copy of that book is you telling me like
everyone
you're interested.
I think for people
that is
our
so
age,
bizarre to me.
Lindsay, I think the people our age though like associate that with like Columbine.
We do.
And
absolutely.
stuff like that. So
100%.
it's like, it came out then. And it's like
did.
we have to all remember that that book was long here.
And I didn't know that.
Many
I
years.
didn't know that. And I do associate that with Columbine.
Yes. But
long before those trench coat mafia motherfuckers came along. No, long black trench coats.
Fucking asshole, dude. Did you total segue. Did you see like there's a documentary out from either Dylan Klebold or Harris's
The We Are Columbine?
I don't think that
it's
no.
not that one.
It's on Amazon
Yep.
Prime, and it's about like how her kid was basically raised in like a happy, healthy home.
Oh,
And
no. I
she
want to
had
watch
no-
that. Because
yeah.
I watched the We Are Columbine one. And, okay.
But so I'm interested.
So
in
let's
that.
watch that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So basically,
Next
they don't find enough evidence to press more charges, but witnesses in the judge building. Okay, so the day that the bombing happened in the judge building, they saw a clean-cut guy with a varsity-type jacket, and it was a green Letterman's jacket, and this was put on the news. And as soon as this was broadcasted out, everyone was like, Mark Hoffman wore a green varsity jacket.
Oh, and that was like they flashed back to that one guy, and he was like you could see, and for what people did a really good job, like being dramatic with this, because like he had like that really heavy, like almost as if he were in that moment, going, dude, I totally realized that was Mark's jacket.
Yeah,
like that's the jacket he always wore.
I loved Brent Metcalf. Like I think he was so amazing because like you could tell like when he was a younger guy. I probably would have been like, "You're a dick, dude," but like you could see.
Oh, he totally, dude. Like,
yeah,
but the TV interviews, like he totally looks like a Chad.
Yeah.
He's totally a Chad.
But like after this happens, like you could see how fucking devastated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how
like,
it changed him, and it pushed him away.
Totally
Yeah.
changed him, and so Brent was one of those people that was like, "That's Mark Hoffman." So then we see the funerals, and it's so fucking sad. I mean, just like Kathy, the wife of one of the intended recipients of the bomb, like, you know, they had children, and this was just...
Oh, that was the whole thing that the cops were talking about, that everybody was talking about, was that, dude... It could have been the family dog that nudged that. It could have been one of the kids that picked it up.
But it was the wife. And like, and it's just so fucking sad. And so then we see Mark's wife talking. The police go to search Mark's house. They find the green Letterman's jacket. There were still a lot of questions though, like what is the motive?
Well, and that's the
thing.
And
they were like, okay, here's the thing. Like anybody that went to this high school
would
have had that same jacket.
Yep.
So we can't completely
throughout
pinpoint
time.
it.
Like
they didn't arrest him that.
It's not even that year. Like anybody who ever went to that high school had that jacket.
Right. And it's a small, like, I mean, Salt Lake City, I mean, it's a city, but it's relatively
or it could have bought it at a secondhand store. Could have bought it at a thrift shop. Could have bought it.
Exactly. Like, we look at Richard Ramirez. What was he buying from a thrift shop? I mean, like, you know, it could have been like anyone. So it wasn't enough to like nail him at that time. And the motive still wasn't clear because they're still like, wait, why would he want to do this? This doesn't make sense.
So that was the other detective,
right?
That he's the guy that keeps pointing. He's like, dude. He's like, guys. He's like, I get it. I get where you're going. I know what the scoop is. He's like, but there's no motive,
right?
Like there's no,
and there
like he's got this deal. He's got that deal. Like there's no, like he's financially set. He has no reason to be mad at these people.
If anything, it would have seemed like the church would have been trying to silence him.
Yep.
And so they didn't understand, like, what is the friggin' motive?
He had a golden opportunity there to make it seem as though the church had put these hits out and flubbed it hardcore, because he probably could have at least had them running around with the church for a while to get himself like back to being like not
normal,
not so suspicious,
and like covering up his tracks,
but he just didn't. And I was like, why isn't he doing anything about that? Because in reality, like, there was that opportunity there that he could have like pinned it on them, and he didn't.
And like personally, I think he was just ready to be found.
Right. Some people just do that.
What's wrong, Dave?
Nothing.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
so New York City, 1984. This is when we're introduced to Justin Schiller, who's a gallery owner. And Mark was starting to branch out from Mormon documents. He found the Oath of the Free Man, which was the first document printed in America,
The original.
supposedly. The original.
Right.
And he happens to find it in a Manhattan bookstore. Weird. And the document...
Weird.
The document was tested, specifically the ink, and it could have been sold for around $1.5 million in the 1980s. And then we find out that Mark was living a much different life in New York City than what he would do in Utah. And so, obviously, Mormons follow very strict rules with drinking and caffeine and like any sex and like anything. And so, when he was in New York City, he was living a completely different life. And
he was a baller when he was in New York.
Yeah, right.
Like he was, and that was.
Yeah, he was living the high life.
Oh yeah, well, because he's rolling in cash.
Yeah.
And he's got all this stuff going on.
Right.
And I think this is where we hear the story.
That it was impossible for him to get drunk.
It's impossible for me to get drunk.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, just line up the shots.
15 to 16 doubles, and he appeared sober.
Oh yeah, and he said, well,
but he went up to his room and puked.
Went up to his hotel room and puked his brains out. So yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, if you keep up those appearances, do your thing.
I don't think I could do that.
I could
the
not
15 or 16
do that.
doubles and then pretending to be completely
How would
fine.
you not be blacked?
Well,
the
they
fuck
said
out?
within an hour, and I was like,
Okay, I'm
well,
not gonna
maybe
lie.
it didn't like.
Like you've
So he
wouldn't
does
be able
it
to
in
do
an
that. I wouldn't be
hour
able to
and
do
then
that.
goes
I wouldn't be able to
immediately
do that.
upstairs and just.
So laughably, I'm talking with I was hanging out on Zoom with an old high school friend of mine last night, and I was telling the story. There was a mutual friend of ours who had this weird belief, because I remember from one of the parties when we were in high school, he would drink somewhere from a third to a half bottle of olive oil, because he truly believed it would coat his stomach. And then he would sit there and just pound. He would pound shots.
So he had loose stools.
And then he would but then he would like disappear for 20 minutes, puke his brains out
Shit his brains
because he thought it would
Yeah.
coat his stomach and keep it from absorbing into his
Yeah.
system, and it would just sit. I'm not saying he was a smart man. I'm just saying, but
obviously not the
So-
brightest bulb.
Because here's the thing, like within an hour, it does take time for alcohol to absorb into the system. Like I don't want to get all I don't want to get all math and sciencey and all that crap.
And I understand that,
But but
15 to 16
Like-
doubles.
like that's
That's alcohol poisoning.
That's impressive.
That's you're dead. And especially if you're coming from a world where you don't drink.
yeah. Well, you don't drink when you're in Utah.
Yeah.
But when
Yeah,
you're in New
true.
York.
Or England.
I know
or
you're in
wherever.
jolly old England, yes.
Jolly old.
Pip pip cheerio.
Or what was your accent?
I know.
It was like Irish.
You just want the heavy cockney back.
You got like, can
want the
I
heavy
have a
cocktail.
few more shots? No, God,
I
that
feel-
was awful. Ew, somebody stop me.
I can't. I cannot.
Can't. Okay,
Please, sir,
So-
could I have some more doubles?
I'm not dead yet. So, anyways, we find out that Mark really
So I was going to ask, like, I'm close to needing one. Do we need to take a quick pause for refills? And
whatever you guys want to do. I'm fine right now.
Okay.
But we're almost done with this episode. Let's continue.
Okay.
So Mark, we find out really liked the high life. His wife said it was basically like feast.
I'm sorry. Now I'm like, he likes the high life. He likes to boogie. He likes to disco.
He likes the high life. He likes the buggy. So basically, his wife said with him it was like feast or famine. Like they either had a lot of money coming in or they could not afford to feed their kids.
Well, so and that's the thing. Like when you're not dealing with, as like any entrepreneur can tell you, when you're not dealing
Right.
with like a steady paycheck kind of thing.
Right.
So okay, great. I found, I spent 6 months
Right.
with nothing coming in, and then I find this document worth $150,000.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
1.5 million.
Or 1.5 million, yeah, whatever. So,
Right.
and okay, great. And so
Right.
it's, yeah.
So investigators figure out that the documents may have been forged. And
But they can't figure out how.
but this would lead them to motive.
Yeah.
So the church sent the salamander letter to the FBI.
Yep.
So the church relinquishes this letter. And this is where we meet amazing George Throckmorton. And he's a forensic document examiner from the FBI. And
Well, he used to work for the FBI.
He seems like a fun guy.
Oh, yeah. Seems like the life of the party.
He's such a life of the party.
I'd love to just pump a couple shots into him and just watch him lose his mind. But no, so he used to work for the FBI because so part of the backstory here, or part of the story here, is that the FBI authenticates the salamander letter.
Okay, we're getting to that. So he brings in... So turns out George Throckmorton is a Mormon.
Yes.
So he wants to bring in like an outside eye because he's like, listen, I want to be like unbiased as fucking possible.
I've got a vested interest here.
Like I will find these documents forged, but I want to bring in someone else who's not. And so he brings in this guy, William Flynn, and one of his questions is like, what religion do you practice? And he is like, well, I used to be a Catholic. And he's like, perfect.
Dude, and I loved how he described how he went about his work.
Yeah.
Where he said, look, if you come to me and you tell me that if you come to me saying the document is real, I'm going to start by proving it's fake.
It's not.
If you come to me and tell me that a document is fake, I'm going to come at it proving it's real.
And I love that too. Like, I'm like, that's a good investigator.
Yep.
Like, that's how you should go about your business. And so they both examine these documents. So fast forward, December 1985, 2 months after the bombings. The Oath of the Freeman appears to be authentic, according to the FBI, and the sale is pending. For investigators, this isn't good news because they're like, what the fuck? Like, the FBI finds this fucking authentic.
And then there's no motive.
Right. Then they're
he's
like,
got $1.5 million coming in.
Right. And then they're like, okay.
Or he's got $750,000 because we didn't even get into that.
Because he's going to split it with
because this other guy,
Right. So the FBI confirms the salamander letter is real. Okay, FBI, you just lost all cred. So Mark Hoffman revealed... So we find out like Mark Hoffman reveled in being on the news, and he was just like eating all of this up. Like he was like, fuck yeah, like I'm on the news, turn it on, I want to watch it. Like, so we already see like that narcissistic personality forming. So Throckmorton disagreed with the FBI in the salamander letter, and he was basically like disgusted with the fact that the FBI found this letter to be real. But he was like, you know what? I'm still going to investigate this letter. And he noticed that the ink on the documents had a cracking effect. So they compared the documents that were older than Hoffman to the ones that like he had handled. Mm-hmm. And all the docs he had handled had the cracked ink effect, but the other ones did not.
That were already in the church did not.
Right. So they find... So this is where they find the plates that he had used to forge the documents for the Oath of the Free Man. And basically he went to like an antique dealer or like somewhere like that, and they had made him these plates that he was able to forge and like use in his forgery.
Yeah, they like made their own copy to like be able to like assess how it presses.
Right. And so this is when he was finally charged. Like they realized that this like Oath of the Freeman, these are forged. We found where you made these plates because they found it somehow through I remember. So he had came in with cash to pay for these plates, but he was missing like 16 cents or like something.
Yeah, it was like $2
some odd amount of change. And so he wrote him a check for that odd amount of change for those plates. And so that's when they were able to trace it back to him.
Because the check was in Mark Hoffman's name.
But it was like his alias. Like it wasn't like it wasn't actual Mark Hoffman, but it was like in an alias he had been using. So they realized like, okay, he is forging these documents. So this is where we get to episode 3.
Episode 3.
So Mark pleads guilty 5 to life and agrees to tell investigators everything, which is like the investigators are completely shocked because they're like,
well, I think that agreeing to tell them everything had everything to do with the fact that if he didn't, he was facing
the death penalty.
Yeah. So, which seems kind of excessive, but at the same time, I'm just like,
it doesn't seem excessive when you kill 2 people.
Well, sure, but I'm like, I feel like,
yeah, like lesser crimes go for more.
Yeah, like there's less.
I get
exactly.
What you're
there's less things that happen, and they get, or there's big crimes that happen, and they get less.
So, we find out like in his childhood, like Mark and his friends, like the first, like one time they go out and they're going on like a treasure hunt, and he finds like a jar of coins. And the story is that he like orchestrated this. Like he went out into the woods, he planted this jar of coins, and then when him and his friends were out like on this treasure hunt, he knew where to look and find this jar of coins. And that kind of like ropes him into like this idea of like, I can find these rare things and look at how
like
special
impressing
I am.
People.
Yeah,
right.
and
it's like getting
people.
this like notoriety for being able to do something.
And that's what he said is like fooling people gave him a sense of power and superiority. So he started at a very young age of forging coins, and he said he was pronounced genuine by the U.S. Treasury Department for these coins. And this just gave him like the ego to be like, I can fool the U.S. Treasury Department. I can fool fucking anyone.
Well, he said if the Treasury says it's genuine, then it is by definition genuine.
Right. Yeah, and what I loved is he said this quote, and I just thought like, wow, this is fucking weird. He said, if something seems to be true and comes to be accepted as true, then it's true. Mm-hmm. And I was just like...
Perception versus reality.
Right. Like, wow, that's just crazy. So then we see his wife, Dory Hoffman, and she's basically saying, like, at that point, she didn't know. He fooled her and her children, and she wasn't a part of any of this. And he staged the Anthem Transcript with his wife, which is the first major document that she found in the Bible. He staged that. He put the document in there and basically was like left it out on the kitchen table for her to flip through and for her to find this document. And he didn't feel like he was using her at all.
And he told her.
He did
but
tell
then backed
her,
off.
And then backed off. Exactly.
He at first told her he made the Anthem Transcript and then was like, I'm just kidding.
And he put it there for her to find, and then she was like, and he could tell like how shaken she was, and he was like, oh, I'm just joshing.
So
I'm just talking out of my hat.
It's actually authentic.
So within their house, he had a room he locked her out of, and she thought it was just like a messy room of his, and she was like, glad I don't have to clean it. Like, whatever, I'm not gonna pry. Like, I get that. I have 4 kids. I don't have fucking time for that shit. Like, bitch. So what he made was made to order, the investigators said. It seems miraculous. No one
If somebody says, I'm looking for something from this person,
Alvin
suddenly he has it.
Right, exactly.
He has one. He's ready for it.
And what one of the investigators said was, like, greed causes people to overlook things. Like, you think you're getting your hands on this rare document, you're going to overlook.
Well, and honestly, that was the interesting point by the investigator, is that it's the greed on both parts that make this kind of thing possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's the greed of the person creating it
and the
matched by the greed of the person who wants it.
Exactly.
Right.
So Brent Metcalf said, he had no suspicions, and this scared him because it cut to the heart of who he was, that he could just be easily deceived by someone. And I was like, I get that. Like, that would mess with me as a person. Like, if you were able to deceive me in that way.
Like, I thought I was a better, I could read people
I
better.
could judge people better than that. Like, that would fucking mess with me, especially because Brent Metcalf went on media and was defending his ass.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, there's no way.
Yeah, there's no way
that he was a part of this.
No,
no, he's a good friend of mine.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So Mark told Brent that he had become an atheist at age 14. So all of the stuff on Mormonism was a show. And so it felt good for him to fool them when he was able to.
Well, people that were considered profiteers, right? You know what I mean, is like he's like, it feels good to fool people who are like literally supposed to be the best of the best,
right?
Investigating this thing,
Right. And I can
you're
fool them.
saying that it's authentic, then it's authentic,
right. So the fallout of Hoffman's documents caused a huge questioning about the very basis of their faith. Obviously, we talked about this. He said, I wouldn't go so far as to say I wanted to change Mormon history. And then he goes, I take that back. Maybe I did. And his plan was going to be to forge the 116 lost pages of the Book of Mormon, which is like a huge thing.
That's a lot. It
could have sold for 7 or 8
But
figures.
that's the crazy part is when they start talking about
how he forged it, which is next.
Well, just how good he was at seeing a writing style and being able to immediately mimic it.
Right.
Like, that's crazy.
So he was able to forge most things within 1 to 2 days, and he would pull down the ink with a vacuum.
So it's called foxing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So to create the aging effect of the ink. And he would create environmental damage to the documents themselves.
He would use a 5-gallon aquarium, and one side of like a wire would be inside of a jar of water with salt, and then the other one would be exposed inside of it, and then the paper would be inside of that aquarium. So it would cause like oxidization, like rapid oxidization.
Yeah. So, he fucking knew what he was doing.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
So July 1985, 4 months before the bombing, basically we find out that he squandered all the money that he had. And Russ, Alvin Russ.
Trying to be a baller in New York.
Right. Russ, who had invested the money in the McClellan documents, never got the money from
Dude, I feel
Mark.
like honestly, I feel so bad for that guy. He was like, "Yep, I was financially ruined. Yep."
He had to sell his entire collection to pay the debt
Because he borrowed money from the bank to give it to him
as a loan,
assuming that he was going to get the money
interest,
and then some.
Yeah.
Right.
So October 12th, 1985, 3 days before the bombing, Russ and Christensen were putting pressure on Hoffman to get the Mcclellan Collection. And basically we find out he had created like this Ponzi scheme of fake documents to get him out of like this pressure.
So, and that was
while.
he branched out into other stuff. Oh yeah, so all of a sudden I've got this document signed by Betsy Ross.
Yeah, he had a Mark Twain signature.
Because I can sell that to cover this. And,
Right.
The night before the bombings, Brent said Mark seemed happy because he went to go see him at his house. Mark seemed happy and at peace. No great harm was done. They might have died in a car accident, the worthlessness of life, or whatever. That is what Mark Hoffman said to the investigators. Well,
he knew that the next day he was going to go and kill people.
Right. But basically what he was saying is like, why should I be held accountable for that? They could have died in a car accident.
Well, one thing that he said that was really, really like haunting for me was when they said, "Oh, like the don't you feel bad about like the victims and all this stuff?" And he goes, "Well, they're not really victims because they're not hurting right now."
Right. Yeah. No, he gives.
They're dead, so it's like that's it.
He gives zero.
He just clearly does not care.
Yeah,
sociopath for sure. Sociopath for sure.
So this is when they go back and they do a reenactment of the bombings, and it gave me so much anxiety because we watch him in his jacket. I mean, obviously reenactment, like I said, but we watch him go up with a box to Christensen's doorstep. He lays the box down, he walks away, and then we see Christensen walk up with like a newspaper and like a lunch and like going into the office on any regular day, sees a box, picks it up, and we know what happens. So the documentary did like a really
that's
crazy job of showing like your life can change in
seconds.
Well, like how do you know it's
2
not
seconds.
his secretary?
Well,
that
and
gets
that's
there
the thing.
early
But
and
that's
picks
the
up
thing.
that box.
He didn't care. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't
Right.
give a shit. He didn't give a shit. That
Well, he dropped it
killed
off at his
Kathy
door
Sheets.
personally. So
Yeah.
it's like he's hoping that
Right.
he's going to be the first person to see it.
So
you know?
this bomb was wrapped with nails, and he practiced the bombs in the desert. So this was completely premeditated bullshit. Like, this wasn't like he was practicing. He was practicing how to kill someone. The bomb that killed Kathy Sheets was a diversion. He said there was a 50-50 chance it would go off. It was a game for him, and he didn't care who he
I was like,
killed.
so that's his story. His story was, well, I kind of rigged it so that it might work.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, it might work. It might not work. Dude, screw you.
Well, he said it didn't matter who it was that
He's
picked
an
up the box,
asshole.
whether it was a child, a dog, or a stranger.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
the third bomb was not a suicide attempt because they thought that it was at first.
Yeah.
But it was actually supposed to be possibly meant for
Brent Ashworth.
Ashworth.
So he thought of killing associates of his. Luckily, Brent Ashworth stayed home that day on suggestion of his wife, because
who just had a weird
yeah,
vibe.
yeah,
Had a
she
weird
was
feeling,
just
yeah.
like I don't know, I don't think you should go into the office today, and he listened.
He
to
ate
her.
pizza and watched a
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
He was living his best life.
Yeah,
honestly.
Moral of the story: listen to your wife.
Yeah. Happy wife,
Hey.
happy life.
Get bombed and don't get bombed.
Right. He
Exactly.
doesn't. Basically, though, like what we learned from these interviews is he has no remorse for his victims at all. Like, it's basically like they would have died one way or another.
Oh, so
I took their life.
And they
early,
they
so
asked the
who gives a
question, like,
shit?
do you feel remorse? And he was like,
Yeah.
well, yeah. And they were like, well, but do you feel remorse because you did it?
And he's like,
Or
no.
do you feel remorse because you got caught?
No, it's because he's in jail.
And he was like, it's because I got caught.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty
So,
honest.
He practiced, also we learned he practiced passing polygraph tests for like a
Yes.
long time. And he passed them like,
Dude, which is so...
yeah. Why we should not fucking use them.
Well,
like how
He started
crazy is
practicing that at like 12 or 13 years old.
Yep.
So considering
Yeah.
how old he was when he was arrested, he had like 20 years
Yeah.
to just practice passing
Right.
these things.
Yeah.
Right. So Mark tries to orchestrate a hit within prison to some of the board of pardons because he's a fucking moron. Criminals, they ain't smart. That's why you're in prison,
They ain't
motherfucker.
smart.
So, and he wanted to kill the board of pardons, but also George Throckmorton. And his wife served him with divorce papers while he was in prison.
So, like, and honestly, like, that was one of the interesting things is, like, all through the doc, they've subtitled her as his wife. His wife, his wife. And it's not until here where it's
Ex-wife.
former wife. And you're like, oh.
Like, come on now.
Okay.
She's been
Wait
the
a
former
minute.
wife the entire time. But
Right.
they just know spoilers, I guess. I guess. That would bother me as his wife.
Yeah.
That would bother me. Like,
Yeah.
don't put me as his wife. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not currently, at least.
Mark stashed sleeping pills and in prison. And he cut off blood supply to his arm when he
that's
fell
so weird. So
unconscious.
here's the thing. So, like, I fall asleep in weird positions sometimes because I'll fall asleep on the or pass out, whatever, on the couch,
Blackout,
whatever. It just
brown
happens.
out.
Just happens.
You're buying us shots after this.
Duh. I assume that was implied. But no, so like, and I've fallen asleep on my arm before, but then I'll wake up and I'm like, why do I have a T-Rex arm? Like, why?
Right, yeah.
Like my arm?
Oh,
like
tiny.
why? Like,
I've done things where like I pass out behind and I'm like, whose hand?
yeah. Like, why do I have?
It's yours.
Like, what's
It's
going on?
yours, bitch. It's yours.
But that's a phenomenal angle for you, by the way. Just
Thank
so
you.
know.
Oh, God damn it! At least my shirt's up to here.
But no, so I get it. Like, they're like, oh yeah, he took all these sleeping pills, and apparently that kept him from waking up when he was laying on his arm, and it permanently cut off circulation to the point where like he has no
It's just
use of his hand
dead
anymore.
arm now.
Right. So he can never use the hand that he used to forge, which is just like
How ironic,
bittersweet.
yeah.
Bittersweet. He didn't die though. That sucks. So SLC taxpayer is still paying for the motherfucker. To this day, no one knows how many forgeries are still out there floating around.
Oh, so and that was the crazy part is so like once you have because this gets into the whole like concept of you don't want to admit that you were duped, like because it's kind of an ego blow, that you were taken in by this, and you look and like,
exactly like Brent Metcalf.
Well, so that's the thing, like, and Throckmorton was like, dude, this guy was a genius, like the FBI, like the FBI, like if it weren't for this one random thing that we noticed, the cracking, and then we started going down that rabbit hole, we would have never. Been able to identify this.
What's so crazy, though, too, is like Throckmorton talks about, he was like, I did not accept the FBI's like version of what happened.
He's like I just knew something was off.
He was like, he said he was like, I was pissed off at the FBI. Like, I was like, you didn't do enough.
Yeah.
And like, so now I'm gonna fucking dig deeper and I'm gonna do this. And so, and like you said, that's the thing, is like how many more floating around out there that people are paying top fucking dollar for. What's in the Smithsonian that's fucking fake? I mean, there's gotta be some. There's something.
There's gotta be.
It's like Da Vinci Code. Like, you know, like
well,
there's some bullshit.
But so like that's the part that's like you have to give him credit, is he would go, dude, the steps that he took and the lengths that he went to find age-appropriate paper to create the
put it in an aquarium with salt.
The specific mix of
who would
ink.
think to do shit like
because like here's like
a sociopath.
Well, yeah, he had like an ink like specific mixture.
Right, because like there's stuff
acidic.
like when people forge some of the classics, like there are things in paint, like so like there are certain things that have happened, like so if like any paintings that have happened after 1945 have certain radiological signatures in them because the radiation from Hiroshima and Nagasaki went around the world.
Right.
And so the true masters paintings don't have those.
Right.
So
like, how did you replicate
you have to go find materials
to
make so that's the thing. So in order to like you have to, like I said, sadly
he said where there was like a thing where they showed where like he would open up old books and like cut out the paper.
That's the thing, like he was
but
phenomenal
like how
at
was
that.
How was that like I'm just like I would love to pick the brains of like these FBI guys. Like how was that paper not influenced by something like Hiroshima, or like how was it like preserved? You know what I mean? Like, how did he know? Or was he was probably just fucking gambling with like whatever.
Well, no, because so here's the thing: like, if you find
he was like
a book that was printed in the 1800s,
right? But it still survived.
Chemical signature, like find any other book from the 1800s.
Yeah,
chemical signatures are the same. So let me cut a page out of this book, wash out the ink, which is a standard process for forgers and that kind of stuff, and then put whatever I want on it. The paper matches. It passes that test. It passes this test. It passes that because
then he's using the super acidic ink, and then he's using the vacuum to pull it through, and he's doing the
aquarium,
the aquarium thing.
Crazy.
So it's like he's going through all these hoops.
So yet
it's
again,
like you'd have to be very, very smart to figure that out.
If criminals would just take 10% of the energy
that
they
this
put
is always
into
my
doing
thing. Like if
the
you
wrong thing
to
do the right thing,
you would
the
be
world would be such a better
human
way.
being, right?
Yeah.
But he got something like as soon as the U.S. Treasury Department certified those first coins that he had forged, that just went straight to his fucking head. And he was like, I can fool if I can fool the U.S. government at that level.
He fooled the fucking church.
But even before that, like he the first thing he did was fool the U.S. Treasury when he was like 14, 15 years old. Like as soon as you do that, can you imagine the fucking ego boost that you get? I don't have rules. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
And I can make incredible money off of it. It's insane. It's fucking insane.
I will say that watching this documentary, whoever they had doing the calligraphy, that was super satisfying. So thank you.
That was
Thank you for
That
doing
was
that.
Hoffman. He knew how to do that calligraphy.
No, I know, but they were like showing like video of someone doing calligraphy.
I was gonna say, but it wasn't actually. Yeah.
Very satisfying for me to watch. I love stuff like that.
Is so beautiful.
Loved
I love it too.
Every second of it.
Yeah,
so whoever did that, thank you, because you were the best part.
Right, I always want to write with like a feather and an ink.
I know.
Pot and, like,
So I went through my phase where like I had the calligraphy sets,
did.
and
I have
had
calligraphy sets.
You're
I
such
currently
a nerd.
do. I currently do, and I love them.
I love it. It's super cool.
Like, and I
I
learned
could never
Gothic,
do it, though.
and I learned.
I'm left-handed, so I smear the ink.
So
I didn't know you were left-handed.
You did, girl. Yes.
I feel like if
So
I
funny
knew that,
story,
I always forgot it.
I was left-handed.
And they made you switch.
They made me be right-handed.
So now you're
but
an ambivert.
I can like depending. It's weird depending on the topic that I'm writing on.
My uncle's like that. It
Yeah.
was like at a time in history where his school teacher was like, whack. No, you write with your right hand. But Obama's left-handed too. And whenever you see him signing documents, he's like this.
Because he's trying to avoid smearing the ink.
Right,
Yep.
he's trying to avoid it. And I was like, that's
like literally what I have to deal with.
That's what I have to deal with. Because otherwise it's just a mess of ink. And then I have the ink with splotch all over my hand. But anyways, it's beautiful. And I thought it was a really good documentary. It could have been always shorter. We will always say that, but
It's the only time you'll ever hear girls say that. But yeah.
Can I have less?
no, actually, no, that's wrong. I don't need you to keep going for hours.
Right.
I don't need it.
No,
I don't need it. Hours
I got
doesn't
mine, we're
impress
done.
me. Right, I got mine. We're off. Good. Wonderful.
Finish up quick.
Right. All right.
Go get the rag.
Everyone, thank you. Go get the towel, the nasty towel in my corner.
I call it Old Crusty.
Oh, crusty. Go get old crusty. God, we're disgusting. Okay. Love you
On that note.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. We're going to, I don't think we're going to do 90 Day today.
I don't think we have time to.
Yeah, we don't have time to. So we'll
Okay.
We'll do 2 episodes of 90 Day next week. And then we'll let you know
It'll
what.
be 3 episodes by then.
Will it?
It sure will.
Oh, right. Yeah, because we had a skit.
So 3 episodes of 90 Day next
That's okay.
week.
We'll be fine. I mean,
then
we
after
have
that-
plenty of Stephanie.
After
so
that, we're
it's so
trying to
good.
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
No, yeah. We'll let you know what documentary we're going to do. Thank you for joining in, and we love you.
We love you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.